This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. We've made it to October 2, Thursday. Here back for the Game Day Preview. Going to be joined by Andy Staples to kind of give a little bit of an idea of like what's going on here with the SEC as we enter week 6 of the college football season. OU Kent State coming up on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff on SEC Network, George, and certainly some storylines. Obviously, we're going to talk about Michael Hawkins today as he takes over at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it's kind of made this week a lot more interesting than what it would have been. I think you would have obviously still had the storylines of Giovanni Gibson and Eli Bowen. We covered that earlier in the week in some of the shows we did, but get to see Michael Hawkins really for we saw him for a couple possessions against Temple in a blowout, but kind of really get to see Michael Hawkins for the first time this season and obviously in a starting role. So that's kind of exciting, and it's also a game that you feel like Oklahoma can work on a few things.
No doubt. Point of contention, Chili's, what are we doing? Skillet Queso got canceled. Did you see that on Thursday?
I don't know what's happening in this country.
I think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to this country.
Yeah, it's
and
up
that's
there.
The final decision on my end of things. Not a good idea. We got to bring that back. Maybe it's done by the same people that did Cracker Barrel.
Is that worse or that worse or the government shutdown? Maybe they go hand in hand.
I care about the Skillet Queso, so
yeah.
Tells you about the other side. All right. Well, before we get into hearing from Ben Arbuckle as well as talking to Michael Hawkins, I know that we talked about him on the Tuesday practice report when we broke down everything that Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle had to say. We did talk to Michael Hawkins, and certainly, as you're going to hear from some of his teammates as well, certainly sounds like they have his back. Wouldn't expect anything other than hearing that, but at the same time, I think it comes with a little bit more weight with the development and what we'll see on Saturday, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think obviously these guys believe in him. I remember going back to last year, they believed him as a true freshman. So I think that it's I don't know what Carrie's saying in my head right now.
I have no idea either.
But I think that Hawkins is certainly somebody that this coaching staff has shown a lot of faith in. He chose to stay at Oklahoma, and I think that he's got a tremendous opportunity to kind of prove himself a little bit on Saturday. I know it's Kent State, but still an opportunity nonetheless.
Have a couple cousins coming up for the Kent State game. They figured, this would be the one that they could go to get tickets easy. Yeah. And I sent them over to our good friends over at Game Time, and you can get tickets for Saturday as well, too. Got Thunder coming right around the corner. Got a preseason game. They're not in Oklahoma City, but Thunder preseason starts Sunday, which is kind of hard to believe. All you got to do is go to gametime.co, and use the promo code ON3. That is ON3. And it's a very simple, very easy process, Giorgio. Here we got the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, I have used Game Time a lot, whether it's games or concerts or just certain events. They always have the best prices. And again, I love how you can see what your view is going to be. Carrie's looking at the Cotton Bowl here, and look at that. You can see exactly what your view is. And I'm looking at the Kent State game this weekend. If you're trying to get last minute tickets, you can get in for as low as $40, so $39 even. So great deals over there.
Pretty good deal if you want to go see a top 10 opponent here coming up next week with Texas, then obviously this week with Oklahoma getting back to the practice field. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, all you got to do is create an account and use the redeem code ON3 for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, let's get into a little bit of it. Ben Arbuckle talked obviously about Michael Hawkins. We talked with him and Brent Venables on Tuesday, but we also did hear from Michael Hawkins, and it's a much different situation, right, than he was thrown into a year ago and having to really kind of replace somebody mid-game. He's known here for the last couple of weeks, obviously, with Oklahoma on the bye week last week, but certainly a different kind of just whole entire situation that Michael Hawkins steps into on Saturday.
Yeah, and we've kind of covered it the last couple of weeks, right? The offensive line O-line's better, the playmakers, obviously the coaching staff is better. And I think Michael himself has really worked on a large part of his game, and whether that's, going through progressions or, connections with certain receivers, things like that, staying in the pocket, I think is a big thing that he's focused on. I think all of those things you're going to see against Kent State, a much improved player. And I think, Brent has said it a lot. It's about all the parts around you, too, at quarterback. And I think that you're also going to see him much more comfortable because of the guys around him.
First things first, though, we'll go back to Monday, talking to some of the players. There was a lot of self-evaluation, right, going throughout the bye week. We talked to Brent about that on Tuesday. Here is a number of Oklahoma players just kind of talking about just a recap of where this team is after 4 games in the season.
It was good. I feel like we got a lot of good work in, especially during the bye week. You don't want to lax off, but I think we understood that we need to get better, and that's what we did. We took our weaknesses and applied them, and it was a good bye week. And just doing our job more than anything, just doing our job, technique, if it's small things, having our eyes in the right places, and just being aggressive more than anything, being physical, dominating every single play,
It'd be like to get Eli back out there.
Amazing, another great player, freshman All-American last year, to have that type of player on the field, great things are going to come his way. He's so smart, intelligent, he knows his job really well. He helps me, he helps everybody in that room, he helps the whole defense. So just having him back, it's going to be really good.
Yeah, we gotta get turnovers, we gotta take the ball away. That's something that we're really emphasizing. We gotta get better at, and just small details, alignments, the fundamentals. That's all it comes down to at the end of the day. Fundamentals, running to the ball, takeaways, and we've done some good things, but there's always room for improvement. This defense is not where we're going to be and where we want to be right now, and so we're going to get better.
Jaron, what were some of the areas that the offense focused on during the bye week and getting better at?
Yeah, we did a lot of self-scout, and understanding how teams are looking at us and places we can, fix stuff like that, and obviously just taking the bye week to get everybody's body right while still putting the work in, working on technique, and just getting better, really.
We focus a pretty good amount, I wouldn't say that's our main focus, even though it's one of our top focuses. But, overall we got to get better in all aspects of the game. And run game is, for sure, one of the top things that we really focused on this week.
Staying level-headed and figuring out how to attack my weaknesses. The run game, pass rush, adding to the tool belt. And, becoming more getting to the ball. We need to really emphasize getting to the ball. We need more red jerseys to the ball. So just playing with a high motor.
Just our eyes, keeping our eyes on our keys, making sure we're not looking at everything, making our world small, looking at the right things so we can play faster. So just making sure we're looking at the right stuff so we can be doing the right things.
I think it did, for the whole defense. We're at a good point right now. We're 4-0, but I think we got to continue to get better so we didn't get laxed. We didn't, take a couple of days off. No, you got to continue to get better. It really, if you want to be a great team, you make those big, increases during the bye week, and I think we did.
I jumped the gun. Now we can talk about Michael Hawkins. And, Ben Arbuckle did talk about the mentality. It's much different from a year ago being thrown into the situation that he was in. But knowing that he's a starter, having a little bit of experience, having been out there, having led a team, which you'll hear from Ben Arbuckle here shortly talking about.
And I think you can just sense his confidence.
Sure.
I think that's grown a lot last year. Not that he wasn't a confident football player a year ago, but I think another year in the program, surrounded by guys that he's gotten to know now, and as well as a coaching staff that I think has really lifted him up because Brent Venables believed in Michael Hawkins, right? Like he didn't want him to transfer, and Michael could have. Michael could have gone somewhere and probably been a starter, at a Power 4 school. So I think that's meant a lot to him, and I think it's also just one of those things like you forget these guys are 18, 19 years old, and they're maturing, and I think you're kind of seeing that with Michael, and I think talking to him this week, you can kind of just get that sense where he feels like he's in a much better place than he was a year ago.
Here is his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, as well as Michael Hawkins, just talking about the experience, stepping into this opportunity.
Well, he's stepped into this role that's happened in the last 2 weeks, and he's done a great job of it, of understanding how he needs to be at practice, understanding the command he has to have at practice of the offense. But, really the quarterback position, it's a command of the whole team too, and he's done a great job of going in there. I think, being able to see John really do that this first month and a half or so, and piggyback off a lot of the things that he does. I think it's been huge for him, and he's been so good out there at practice. You can feel the command, you can hear the command, you can see the presence, and so I'm excited about how he's been with that, and excited to keep on seeing him develop.
I feel like I took a big step, and I feel like a big part of that is because of the people around me, like I said, Coach Kuz and Coach Arbuckle, and just the support staff, and it's just been a great environment I've been in.
How have they maybe helped your development as a quarterback?
They're very hands-on. They really tuned in on what they're doing. They know what they're talking about, so I really love how they operate in the room and just kind of ask questions on the fly, keep you on your toes, so it's a great room to be in.
This situation is different in two major ways from what you got thrown into last year. You're not going in the middle of the game, and now you've got experience. You've commanded the huddle, you've led the team in practice, all those things. How big of a difference are those two situations?
I feel like it's a great situation to be in right now, just to have those guys around me and just the support staff, like I said, and just being in the fire last year helped me a lot with just my process and just knowing, the game and just being in there and being able to command the huddle. So that helped a lot last year.
You're going to start this weekend. Everybody understands that. Beyond that, when you're dealing with a timeline for John where maybe it's not entirely clear when he's going to be back, how do you go about that in the sense of preparation?
The same preparation I've had this whole year. Just taking it day by day and trying to go 1-0 every week as a whole, and keeping my guys up regardless of who's in there.
Certainly could be difficult, right? And I think that it is important that John Mateer's been around. He's kind of that extra coach. If you've been Arbuckle, John Kuziescu, who we talked about on Tuesday or Wednesday in the breakdown with Ben Arbuckle, it's different, but at the same time, I think that there is a sense of confidence, not just from the coaches, but from his teammates as well.
100%. And I think that they've gotten to know him over the last year, and we heard that a year ago, that they fully believed in him and they like him as a person. I also want to say, Eddie, too, there's this narrative out there that like a quarterback who's quiet or reserved, like can't be a good leader or is typically not a great quarterback. And I would just push back on that, because I think Oklahoma's had a handful of those guys that maybe aren't the most boisterous out there guys. I think of a guy like Kyler Murray, who was extremely quiet, very reserved. Jalen Hurts was the same way.
Maybe even more quiet than Kyler, which is hard to imagine.
Yeah, and so if you watch Michael's interview and you're like, oh, well, he's really reserved, and that must mean he's a quiet leader or whatever. Like, one, we don't know what he's like behind the scenes, and two, we've seen like that style can work. Not everybody has to be Baker Mayfield, right? And I get Baker's very enduring and everybody wants to follow him. But I think that Michael in that locker room has endeared himself in a way, whether it's the way he works or the way that he speaks to people. Maybe it's not as loud, but the way that he gets his message across. I think it's been loud and clear, and I think guys really respect his work ethic, his loyalty to Oklahoma, and I think when you hear some of these guys talk about him, you can really feel that.
Here is a number of Michael Hawkins' teammates talking about their confidence in the Oklahoma quarterback, making his fifth start on Saturday.
It's great. We obviously went through some things this year, but whoever's out there, we're going to roll with them. And just like the room as a whole, like with receivers, running backs, O-line, we're all together. Like it's probably the tightest I've ever been with a locker room, especially with the O-line. So they're guys you could lean on, and they're going to lean on you too. So it's great. I love our receiver room. It's so deep and so versatile. We have so many guys that can just go and just route run. So just having those guys in the room and just being able to talk to them, how they like balls thrown to them, and it's a great room to have.
Going great. He's a great player, and he's a lot further along than he was last year, and he's continued to develop and do great things. We're excited about him. I mean, just like anybody that's going on into another year in college football, and it's development with Schmitty, development with the game plan, and just knowing football. He's a completely different player. We're really excited about him.
I say his confidence. He's a lot more confident out there. I think in all aspects of Mike's game, has improved, especially, with this new offense. I think he's really going to excel. And even coming off of what he did last year, coming in as a freshman, a true freshman at that, into crazy environments, winning his games, And I'm just super excited to have him. And, it feels good because it feels like we have 2 quarterbacks that we can win with. So I'm super excited about that.
You can just tell, the game is slowing down for him. He's making his reads quicker. Everything's happening at a better pace. He's taking control of the offense. So, we all have our trust in him. We don't have any doubts in Mike. We all know he can ball. He's going to do his thing. So we're just happy to have his back.
My mindset is it doesn't matter who's in the backfield. Whoever's back there, we're protecting them, with 100% effort, whatever running back, whatever quarterback. Because I think that, all levels, we have guys that we can win with, guys that we can win the biggest games with. I'm extremely confident in Mike. And I'm confident in our guys to keep him safe, It doesn't matter who's back there. It matters about what we do as an offensive line.
Yeah, even our entire defense down to the 4 deep is incredible players. And so we go against one of the best defenses in the country every single day in practice, even down into our 2 deep and into our 3 deep. And so it's like he's seen this defense before, and he's seen a really good, challenging defense. And so I think he's gonna be very comfortable back there.
Yeah, Mike's always been a confident guy. He never is playing nervous or nothing like that. So, when you see your quarterback doing that, it helps us, have confidence in him. So we know if he has confidence in himself, we can trust him too, and we make sure he knows we have his back no matter what.
It's a good time talking to some of those guys for the first time on Monday night. You can watch all of the player interviews from the post-practice session on our Soonerscoop.com editorial page. But what an opportunity. And we had a little bit more in-depth conversation about this on the Unofficial 40 this week with Kerry Murdoch and Josh McQuistion. Don't want to put too much into just a single start against Kent State, but if he is put in a situation where he has to start multiple games, whether it be Texas or South Carolina, before a John Mateer return, you do want to see something from Michael Hawkins over the next 8 quarters or 4 quarters, whatever it may be, looking ahead to 2026.
Yeah, this is a good audition for him. Not even just at Oklahoma. Obviously, OU hopes he can be the quarterback of the future, and barring what happens with John Mateer and if he goes to the NFL. But if let's say John Mateer were to come back next year, this is kind of a tryout for Hawkins for other teams. If he were to, look in the transfer portal again, I'm not saying that's what he would do, but it's one of those things where he's got a big opportunity for however many games it is, and I think Oklahoma's very confident they can still win with him.
No doubt about it. All right, before we throw it to our interview with the great Andy Staples from On3, let us tell you about our good friends over at Lucy. We've been telling you about Lucy here for basically the last couple of months now, but it's become a staple around the Sooner Scoop offices. I know Kerry and I both have really participated in the Lucy experience. 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. They also have the Lucy Breakers that we're trying to get George to try. The nicotine pouches with an extra surprise. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. Set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. What you got to do is you go to lucy.co/Soonerscoop and use promo code Soonerscoop to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. And the best thing, there's the breakers right there on the screen. Got the pouches in the middle. Multiple flavors that you can try. The espresso, how about that? As well as the wintergreen. You got the mint. Various different milligrams, 4, 8, 12 milligrams. It's basically your call. All you got to do is go to lucy.co/Soonerscoop, use promo code Soonerscoop to get 20% off your first order. And we must tell you, Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical. Now we will throw it to our catch-up with the great Andy Staples, just kind of talking about everything in college football. He was here in Norman, did his Saturday live show with Ari Wasserman on Saturday night following that Auburn game, and certainly high on the defense. He wrote about it on on3.com. You can check that story out as well. Here is Andy Staples. Now, welcome in Andy Staples to the program. And Andy, there's been a lot since that has happened since you left Norman about a week and a half ago. You're here in town for the Auburn game Tuesday after John Mateer announces he's going to be out for a while. And then the Dr. Shin memes took the internet by storm. Certainly regarded in great terms, I think, in Norman as Dr. Shin. But Oklahoma, just obviously going into the Kent State week, it's 42-point favorite, I think, is the number out there. But obviously the quarterback situation, John Mateer, can Oklahoma survive over the next couple of weeks? It certainly appears from what we've seen against Michigan and Auburn from a defensive perspective, it makes Oklahoma fans feel a little bit better.
Yeah, now I will say Stephen Shin probably should consider running for governor of Oklahoma.
He would win.
He's got a shot.
He would win.
It is going to be an interesting few weeks. And so it's weird because it seems like most teams are starting SEC play in earnest, but if you had an earlier conference game or two, now you get that one last blast of non-conference before the gauntlet begins. And for Oklahoma, I've said this a million times on my show, that last 7 games is the hardest 7-game stretch I've ever seen a team get saddled with. And now that we know that John Mateer's not going to be there for all of it, it's a very interesting question what happens next. But, like I wrote about last week, the defense has been good, can be even better. Like, the fact that this defense has been so dominant but has yet to actually force a turnover is incredible. Pretty wild to me. Like, and look, they dropped a couple picks in the Auburn game, but I'm of the belief that turnovers, yes, you do create a lot of them. Yes, you do, cause them, but also there is luck involved. The ball needs to bounce to you when it's fumbled sometimes, or your DBs do need to squeeze the ball when it is thrown to them because they're DBs and they're not supposed to know how to catch because otherwise they'd be receivers. And so I think there's one of the situation where they've been in position to get some, and they're going to start getting some probably. That all sort of evens itself out. But the Kent State thing's interesting because they are going to get a chance to look at some stuff. Like, it sounds like Giovanni Gibson's going to be back.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that I know you guys were really interested in. Everybody I talked to out there was really excited about what he could be, and he breaks his leg in spring practice. It's like, oh, come on. Yeah. Like, when is this team going to catch? Well, breaks probably the wrong word for that, but when is something lucky going to happen for them?
Yeah. Andy, I wanted to ask you, just this Oklahoma team in general, are you a believer in this group? Because they're ranked 5th in the country right now in the AP poll, and I don't know how much stock you put into that, but it seems a little high. And I know that they've played well and beaten teams like a Michigan and Auburn. I also don't know how good Michigan and Auburn are, but like, how much of a believer are you really in Oklahoma being the 5th best team in the country right now?
I don't know if they're the 5th best team in the country. I think with Mateer, there's a good chance they are.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and I was going over this with Ari Wasserman, my co-host, earlier today as we were planning out today's show. There's so many teams in the SEC that look like they could be really good, look like they could be playoff teams. But the fact of the matter is they're going to hit the meat of their conference schedule, and the cumulative effect of those games is going to eat up the ones that aren't really prepared for that. I don't know who is and who isn't right now, and I don't think anybody does. So, of Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Missouri, Ole Miss, and then Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, obviously are the ones that have a loss already. Like, Texas has a loss already. But we don't know which of those are built to really withstand the pressure of every week you've got somebody who can beat you. And like, I was looking at Alabama's schedule coming up. Like, they play Vandy this week, but then they go Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina. Like, those are all teams on the right day that can beat you. And that's the issue. So for Oklahoma, they've got to maybe steal one of these that Mateer's not playing in. And then we'll see. Because, I know the hope is to get him back for South Carolina. I don't know if they can beat Texas without him, but God, can you imagine if they did? Because, again, what's behind Texas, the 6 games behind Texas, are as worrisome as Texas is.
There's certainly going to be a lot of eyeballs on Dallas and OU Texas coming up in a couple of weeks. Certainly, Texas has to get through Florida, though. And I think that it's what you said, Andy, just in terms of the SEC seems kind of wide open. And then all of a sudden you look back up and the way that Alabama performed, if they can get that from Ty Simpson, who knows? Maybe the Kalen DeBoer era or the killing of the Kalen DeBoer era still hanging in the balance, if you will.
Yeah. I just that is amazing to me. And now the Alabama people just beat Georgia, so they're back. They're going to win the national title again. Everything's okay. And this is the part I keep coming back to with all of these SEC schedules. Like, no, you don't know that. You just don't know that. And like Oklahoma could beat Texas next week. And we're all going to go, oh, Oklahoma's a playoff team. Oklahoma's going to win the SEC. No, you don't know that.
It's just insane.
The schedules at the back half of this season for some of these teams are so brutal. We don't know it. We don't know anything, nor will we know anything probably for another month.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And that's, I guess, kind of goes in the face of what I was about to ask you, just in terms of Oklahoma and seeing them up close. Was there anything that you saw when you were in town for the Auburn game that you weren't expecting from Oklahoma that made you go, oh, okay, I didn't know. Maybe I see Oklahoma a little bit higher than I did going in?
It's the depth up front on defense. And this is like, you see, now Florida's kind of a bad example because their offense has been so bad, but their defense was good early in the season. They've had guys dropping like flies on defense, and now they're in a position where personnel-wise, they may not be as competitive as they were. And I think a lot of teams are in that situation where you've got some good top-line guys on your defensive line, but if one of them went down or a couple of them went down, it's a very different-looking defense. Oklahoma is in a position on the defensive line and at linebacker where they have some good competitive depth. Like you look at Heineke at linebacker, like he'd start everywhere else. And
it's crazy.
You know, he's playing a role on this defense. Like, so this is a really loaded defense, and probably more loaded, especially in the middle on the defensive line, than the other play. Like when you can rotate in David Stone.
Sure.
And David Stone can stop the run as a 300-pound guy, but also can give you a good interior pass rush. Like that's a luxury not many teams have anymore.
Andy, I know we're a week and a half away from the game down in Dallas, but what do you think about that game right now? And I know this weekend, it's not a big test, obviously, for Oklahoma. We'll see what Michael Hawkins looks like, but down in Gainesville, that is a big game where I think we will find out a little bit more about this Texas team and Arch Manning. So what do you kind of think about that OU-Texas game, and as well as the Texas-Florida game this weekend?
Well, you talk to the Texas people, and they'll tell you, okay, you all freaked out about Arch. You were premature. He's going to be fine. Ohio State's just really good. I worry more about what he looked like against UTEP than I worry about what he looked like against Ohio State. But he did look better against Sam Houston State. But again, it's Sam Houston State.
Sure.
So this will be a defense, and I mentioned Florida's had some pretty tough injuries. They had another situation today where one of their safeties is going to have surgery and he's not going to be playing. So they're pretty depleted on the defensive line and in the secondary. They're still pretty good, though. Like, they're still pretty talented on defense. This will be obviously the best defense Texas has faced since Ohio State. So we will get a better look at how Arch processes against a better defense. And I think we need to see that, because what we saw against UTEP was troubling. Like that, if he plays like that against Oklahoma, it doesn't really matter who Oklahoma starts at quarterback. Oklahoma's going to win that game, because that will be an abject disaster. But if he has gotten calmer in the pocket, if he isn't rushing things, if he's processing in the right amount of time and getting the ball out at the right time, then I think that's going to be a really competitive game in Dallas, because no Mateer, probably going to keep the score down. Even if Mateer had been there, you're probably talking about a fairly low-scoring game.
Yeah.
Because Texas's defense is awesome. I mean, that's we keep talking about Arch and what's wrong with Arch. The thing is, he doesn't have to be Superman, because that defense is going to keep the score low. So as long as he's not making mistakes, and as long as he's occasionally making a play, they're going to be fine. So I really wanted to see Mateer versus Arch, and who knows, we may get to see it in Atlanta if things go well for both teams. But I do think Arch needs to be better than he has been this season, or Oklahoma's defense can tear him up. So that's where this gets really interesting, where you be talking like a 10-6, 6-3 type game. But I think he's probably going to be better than that.
Everybody's on Chipotle watch here with the tortilla roller saying that he got a promise from Jabbatir that he'd play on October 11th. Very much a wait-and-see process. And then obviously, after the Texas game, Oklahoma has to go down to South Carolina. Maybe a little bit of life from Columbia, or is that just beating up on a Kentucky team that maybe the demise, or we'll see with Mark Stoops with the $38 million buyout kind of hanging out there?
It is a really good question, because they certainly looked like the South Carolina we were expecting to see all season.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, like, I would be scared to death if I'm LSU. Like, scared to death to see South Carolina come into Tiger Stadium next week, because Lenoris Sellers, hold on. Sorry, guys.
You're good.
I had an itch so bad on my nose.
Itch it?
I did.
Sorry about that.
No,
Okay.
you're good.
Yeah.
We can just start back in if you want to just start from
I'll start
South
with
Carolina.
Lenoris Sellers, yeah.
Okay.
Lenoris Sellers is one of the more dynamic quarterbacks in the country, but they haven't gotten much out of the run game that doesn't involve Lenoris Sellers, and then they haven't blocked for him very well. But they still have, like, South Carolina has more aliens than most teams have. Lenoris Sellers, Dylan Stewart coming off the edge, like, he might be the one of the best individual football players in the country. They just don't have as much talent around him as they, like last year, they had Kyle Kennard on the other side. And then they also got Nick Harbor at receiver and returning kicks, who I think can be an X factor. If you play the video game, you're like, well, how come he hasn't broken out yet? Because in the video game, you're just throwing 9 routes to him the whole time. So I am very curious to see what happens with them, because I thought there was something maybe broken about them, and then watch the Kentucky game, like, oh, they might be okay. And I don't know that Kentucky's offense is going to be a problem, going to be a little bit of a mess. But you saw Kentucky play really hard against Ole Miss and make that a game. So I don't think Kentucky's terrible. And the way South Carolina looked is what I thought they'd be all season. So yeah, that one's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of games coming up because we haven't had, I'm trying to think, guys, we haven't really had an SEC result, in a game involving 2 SEC teams that was shocking to us,
sure,
like Alabama Vandy was last year. That's coming. Because the teams in the middle are so much closer to the teams at the top than they used to be, that we're going to see that here in the next 2-3 weeks.
It kind of seems like
maybe Florida, Texas.
Yeah, and also
that Florida, Texas is the one I was going to mention. Like, let's say Florida's offense puts it all together. They have a freshman named Dallas Wilson, a receiver who's not been able to play all season. He's making his debut. He's a big, strong, fast dude who, Florida hasn't had a receiver like that in a while. And who knows? Maybe he unlocks something in DJ Lagway. That's one of those games where something like that could happen.
Fair or unfair to say that there's a lot that's going to go into this weekend's game in Tuscaloosa to just almost kind of say, okay, is this Vandy thing for real? Are they actually a contender within the Southeastern Conference?
Yeah, and the thing is, there's no surprises this time.
Sure.
Like, Alabama's not going to go into this game thinking, oh, it's just Vandy. I mean, we're talking about Vandy constantly. I think if I were Kalen DeBoer, I'd be really happy. I'd be like, you keep this love fest up for Vandy. And we're going to sit, because how often does Alabama really get a chance to do the us against the world thing?
Yeah.
And they really can this week, because obviously it's a much cuter story if Vandy wins. And so you've got the casual fan rooting for that. But Alabama looked fantastic last week against Georgia. Ty Simpson was awesome on third down. Like, if Ty Simpson is that good on third down against Vandy, he's just going to break their backs. Like, that's you cannot keep doing that to a team and they don't just wilt at some point. And that's what he did. And look, Georgia played as well as it could under those circumstances, and then he still broke them on a third down conversion at the end of the game. So I'm excited to see this, because Diego Pavia is the type of quarterback that Alabama's defense has historically not enjoyed playing.
Sure.
And I realize it's not the same defense as when Nick Saban was there and either Kirby Smart or Jeremy Pruitt or was running it, or Pete Golding. But this is the kind of quarterback that historically has given them problems. So Gunnar Stockton is not that kind of quarterback. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm excited about that game. It's one of many spreads this week where the favorite is a double-digit favorite that I looked at it and was like, oh, man, I just don't know. I don't know if that's too many points.
It's a lot of points.
Andy, we saw Arkansas fire Sam Pittman. How many more SEC jobs do you think come open this year?
2. But by firing.
Yeah.
There also could be more if people move.
Sure. Right.
But the reason I say 2 is I think Florida's opening, obviously. And then I think Auburn may open too. I think there's a chance that Hugh Freeze gets run out of there. You know, he's had health issues too, so it might also not even be a football thing. So those 2, I would imagine. As bad as Kentucky's been, Mark Stoops, the buyout is huge. You just mentioned it, George. It's in the mid $30 million range, and it's due 100%, I believe, within 30 days of the firing. It's either 30 or 60 days, but basically you got to pay it all up front, which is not like any of these other buyouts.
Yeah.
And I think that's prohibitive. I think that's too expensive. I think LSU fans, if LSU were to go 8-4 again this year, LSU fans will be out on Brian Kelly, but they will not be able to buy him out. They would owe him way too much money.
Yeah. Last one for me.
It's just unbelievable.
It's
good,
insane.
Good agent work there for the Stoops family.
Yeah, my gosh. Andy, last one for me. I don't know if you're a Heisman voter. I would assume they give you a vote for that. Who you got right now? Because we just talked about how wide open it is in the SEC and college football this year. Feels wide open at Heisman, and I know John Mateer was right there. I don't know. Does that change your thinking on him? I guess it depends on how many games he's out.
I mean, just in the SEC, you have John Mateer, you have Ahmad Hardy at Missouri. Yeah. Shoot, I mean, Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss if he keeps playing like this.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, we don't even know if he's going to keep the job when Austin Simmons gets healthy. But then, you go outside of the SEC. I think that the guy I've been most impressed with this season is someone I know is probably not going to wind up very high on most voters' lists. But if he keeps playing this way, he'll probably be on my ballot by the end of it, is Reuben Bain Jr., the defensive end for Miami. I think he's been absolutely a game wrecker. Like, he ended the game against Notre Dame with 2 consecutive sacks. Ended the Florida game and it's one of those that you look at the final score, 26-7, you think, oh, they just killed him. No, Florida was kind of in it in the fourth quarter, but Reuben Bain ended it. And he just has the capability of when they need something, when they absolutely need a play to be made, he makes it. And so I love that. But I think there's a lot of good options right now, and I can't wait to see how this all plays out. Because, like, Ty Simpson, for example, was a name that we weren't saying at all. Yeah. If he plays the way he played against Georgia for the rest of the season, Ty Simpson's going to be in New York.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun. It's incredible too, because it feels like usually during this time of the year, you turn that calendar over to October, you start deciding a lot of things or a lot of narratives that are out in college football.
Yeah.
Seems like all those narratives right now are still kind of a wait and see approach. He is Andy Staples.
Yeah, we don't know anything yet, especially in the SEC. Like, we think we've got all this information, but then you're like, wait a second. A lot of these games are against non-conference cream puffs or against, or they're good non-conference games, but maybe they don't tell you everything because there was an open date or there was an easier game on either side of it. It's when they hit the meat grinder that you figure out what these teams actually are, and the meat grinder is coming for all these teams.
That time is now. Andy, we appreciate it. Andy Staples, Andy and Ari, Monday through Thursday. Obviously, the Saturday night show, a can't miss, starting at 10:30, 11:30 Eastern. We appreciate it. We'll see you down in Dallas, hopefully, here in a couple weeks.
You definitely will. We'll see you, gentlemen.
See ya.
Thanks, Andy.
Really good to catch up with Andy. We always enjoy having him on. You can check out the Andy and Ari show Monday through Thursday right here on YouTube, as well as on Saturday nights when they do the live show, which has kind of become a little bit of a staple of mine on like Sunday and Monday, recapping everything that we miss.
Because usually we're getting out here at a pretty late hour. I'll listen to it on my way home, on the drive home, after the game. So and then obviously finish it up on Sunday morning. and they do a great job. Andy's as plugged in as it gets.
Sure.
I mean, he watches every
It was a lot of
game.
fun watching some of those games when we got back from the stadium.
He just has great,
after the Auburn game.
I think, too, like, he just thinks about things, I think, on a deep level with, like, every team. And so he's always got good analysis, good takes, and I don't know. He's just good at what he does.
It's kind of replaced the college football final that used to be a fantastic show, but now obviously everything moving over. All right, before we get into the rest of the program, let us tell you about our good friends over at Huel. Huel has been a staple now in the morning routine for us, right? The chaos for at least Carrie and I in the morning. We were talking about this on the Unofficial 40. It's crazy. All you got to do is get the shaker bottle. You can throw some of the powder in there. Yeah. Add a little bit of water. You're good to go. You got the shake kind of looking.
Yeah, the complete ready-to-drink meal. And they've got several different flavors. This one's the strawberry banana. I haven't tried it yet, but I've tried the iced coffee and the chocolate.
Sure.
Delicious.
You liked it?
Yes. And it's got, 400 calories, 35 grams of protein. So it's pretty filling.
We like that. A complete meal with Huel also has all the nutrients you need to thrive, as well as 27 vitamins and also the minerals. So all you got to do is go to Huel.com. You're going to get 15% off with the promo code SooterScoop. So Huel.com/SooterScoop, and just use the exclusive code SooterScoop. You can get 15% off your first purchase for new customers. Very good. Thank you.
I know Kerry tried the daily greens too, and he liked those as well.
He said it was pretty good.
Yeah,
he tried that out, I believe, this morning. So thank you to our good friends over at Huel. He said he gave him a head rush as well.
Lots of good nutrients in there.
I would probably get the head rush as well. Those
I
nutrients
think
are not in my body.
Carrie, you, me, we probably all need that.
We probably all need it. All right, we will continue on with the game day preview. Obviously, Kent State, not a whole lot of talk about Kent State this week, and obviously that's why. It's just a bad football team. OU a 42-point favorite. There was a lot of catching up, though, on Sunday or Monday night with some of the players. Dominic Williams talking about David Stone. You had Fabechi just kind of talking about the offensive line in general and what he played through last week or 2 weeks ago against Auburn with those ankle injuries to Jake Michaela. Fabechi had that one, as well as Michael Fasusi. Certainly seems like they're in much better spots. And then obviously Jaron Kanik, who continues to be one of our favorites in the media room, just in terms of talking to him, but just his development, still leading the country in receiving yards.
It's crazy, and I kind of wrote his story this week, a little bit of a feature. I talked to his high school coach, and it's fair to say they're not surprised. And if you go back and you watch some of his tape from high school, he was an elite, quarterback, fullback, H-back, played slot receiver his first 2 years in high school, played a little tight end. Like, he did it all for them. They're certainly not surprised. I know NFL teams are very interested in him in terms of playing kind of that H-back type of role. So we'll see what his future holds, but he's been a fantastic story. And look, I know it's Kent State week and not much excitement, but I think for Oklahoma, and you'll hear it from some of these players, there's still a lot to get better at, a lot to focus on. And good teams, Eddie, they get better every single week.
Sure.
And no matter who the opponent is, you hear that a lot, like nameless, faceless opponent every single week. And that's coach speak to an extent. But I do think that Oklahoma and these players have kind of bought into that and know they still have some places that they can get a lot better. And this is a week to do that.
Somewhat of the same mentality that they took to Philadelphia. And we appreciated how they, obviously just kind of handled the trip, being the weirdness of the atmosphere, all that
Go
kind
out
of stuff.
there and kick ass.
A little bit of the same this week against Kent State, even though you're playing at home. Here is a little bit of a roundtable of just about everybody that we talked to, kind of wrapping up the week of media with some of the Oklahoma players.
In your mind, the biggest factor to keeping this defense performing at the level that it has through the first couple weeks here?
Honestly, just staying locked in, make sure we get our details down pat. And like I said earlier, just having that communication, no matter what, make sure we communicate, make sure we're on one page every play, and
that's really important. Bye week, you got to take time to really make sure you're eating the right way, you're recovering the right way, make sure your body gets back to 100%, because it's a long season, and we're gonna need everybody. So I got to make sure that I'm doing my part and the O-line is doing their part and staying healthy.
How bad was your ankle in the Auburn game? It looked terrible on video when you got rolled up on.
Yeah, so it's football, so you're gonna play with pain. You can't play with pain, you can't play. So, I'm just really thanking God that He allowed me to play that game. I played that in high school, so I played in high school and a little bit my first year of college. And I'm getting really comfortable at it. You know, I love center. I really just love offensive line, just getting to go attack guys and try to put somebody in the dirt. But yeah, I'm excited.
How much different has that been for you, I guess, making that move and kind of working at it while also playing right guard?
You know, like I said, we tried to learn all parts of the offense. All parts of the offense and like especially like the O-line. Yeah. So it really has helped me in all other positions, you know, in my guard positions and in my center. Now I have a complete understanding of, okay, I'm stepping like this at center so that when I step like this at guard, it fits together. You know what I'm saying? He's really stepped up, you know. Obviously, coming here in the summer, you know, it was going to be a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning, but I was very happily surprised and almost a little bit shocked by his speed of, you know, catching up to everything, you know. With Troy down, you know, we've been not putting stress on Jake, but, you know, Jake has understood that, okay, I really got to step up, and he's for sure done that.
Man, every time I see that dude, man, I get a big smile on my face because it's like he's grown so much. Like, the freshman mentality is out of him. I mean, he's staying focused. He knows the defense like the back of his hand, and it's just, I mean, he's gonna be a great, without a doubt. I'm so glad. I'm proud of him.
Has that been the biggest difference, just getting rid of that freshman mentality, knowing the defense more? Have those just been some of the biggest differences you've seen from him?
Nah, not even just that. It's really his body as well. As you can see, he looked like he gained a lot of muscle over the offseason, and just I feel like he's also got a little bit faster as well. So it's just, yeah, he's gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm a little undersized. I still got to work on my blocking and technique with my blocking. That's just a huge focus of mine. Just being at that disadvantage, blocking bigger guys, I have to have almost perfect technique, and that's something that I've been working on for sure. I mean, it's just like learning anything new. You know what I mean? I mean, I blocked in high school, but I was just bigger than everybody else. It's a little different. You got to actually have technique and understand where to put your hands and the body position to be in, and so it's just like learning anything new.
You can read George's deep dive into Jaren Kanak and just kind of his upbringing and all that kind of stuff from the Pride of Hays, Kansas, right?
Yes,
Hays,
Proud of Hays, Kansas. He was a beast, man.
Oh, so. I remember him, and remember obviously the recruitment. He was committed to Clemson, and then obviously comes over with Brent. Just a good story that continues to be a good story for awesome. Oklahoma. Another good story: the 1985 national championship team. Obviously, Barry Switzer. You can list off the names of guys: Jamel Holloway, Brian Bosworth, Lydell Carr, Ricky Dixon, who I believe you've wrote about before. Yeah. Before his passing.
Yes, he's rest in peace, but he was the man, back in the day, and obviously brutal what happened to him with ALS and all of that. But it's going to be good to see a lot of those guys back in town. It's funny. My dad, played with a lot of those guys. Mm-hmm. He played in 82, 83, 84. So he wasn't on the 85 team, but knows a lot of those guys. Knows Coach Switzer, and so it's going to be fun to see him out there. And Barry Switzer, I think he's done quite a few interviews this week. So I'm sure there'll be some good stuff come out of that.
I always look for Coach Switzer's interview on The Ticket with Corby Davidson, OU Texas week. Obviously that'll come, but anytime that we can get Brent Venables, Arbuckle talking about the great Barry Switzer, we're going to include it into the program. Here they are on Tuesday.
I wish he was he used to come out to practice all the time, and he'd come by, and man, as everybody here knows, he can really take you back to some cool moments in time. We had him as our keynote speaker to our coaches clinic the year before last, and he was fantastic. But man, what he has stood for, so humble. He's such a humble guy for the success that he's had in college football history. To see him and Coach Stoops when they're around each other, Coach Switzer's a little, he's a little more, Coach Stoops is a little more reserved. Coach Switzer's he's out kind of leading the charge, and it's an absolute blast. We have a function prior to during fall camp where we have all the coaches there and a lot of people here in the community that support Oklahoma football, and Coach Switzer's always there. Coach Stoops is always there. And again, the stories and just the energy, the passion, the connection, the familiarity, the comfort that you have. Special, Coach Switzer, special. in every way. You feel like you've known him, your whole life. And, one of the best to ever do it, man. We're fortunate to be able to experience, what he's all about, in this day and age.
I mean, I think I've had 3 interactions with him, and each time, I mean, the first time I was kind of, oh my gosh, Coach Switzer right here. But he has been unbelievably encouraging to me every time I've seen him and talked to him. You can tell he loves football, and he still keeps up with it because he's able to tell me stuff that we did in a game and like, hey, I really like what you did right here, and that's cool, and that's really, really fun. I think the last interaction I had with him was down by the training room. I was walking in the bathroom, he was walking out of the bathroom, and we talked for 5 minutes. And so that's just really, really cool. But he's been extremely encouraging. Anytime he speaks, you better listen, because the knowledge that you can get from him, even in a 5-minute conversation, I think can carry over into a lot of different aspects. And so I just appreciate how he's been in our interactions, and just a great individual.
Ben Arbuckle talking about Barry Switzer. 40 years since the 1985 National Championship team. I believe they'll have a some type of function on Friday night for some of the players that are coming back, and the coaches, obviously. And then during the game Saturday, I don't know if that's going to be like during the first and second
I would bet it's early
changeover. I would imagine so, maybe halftime. But if you're in the stadium, you will be able to take part in that. All right. Friday, we'll have Around the Quarter coming up, taking your questions from the Crimson Corner and trying to give a little bit more levity and or depth to those answers here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. And then we'll roll into Saturday and the instant reaction, all that kind of stuff that we'll have here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. So, anything?
No, I'm excited. Look, I know it's Kent State. I think I said this in a show earlier this week, but enjoy it. It's October. This is the best time of the year.
Well, and it's the start of something that I think is very important for this.
Yeah.
You passed that test in September that we had talked about so many times before.
Yeah.
This is where it really kind of begins, and especially next week down in Dallas.
Yeah, the gauntlet starts after this weekend. I wrote about that today on Thursday, and you can read that on Soonerscoop.com. But this thing's about to get really tough, so enjoy this one this weekend and enjoy the football the rest of this month, November, December, because before you know it, Eddie, it'll be like February, and we'll be, convincing ourselves to buy into Porter Moser's team and all that stuff.
All right, well, that's a little bit of a dig that was unexpected.
I actually do believe in Porter Moser's group this year. I think they're going to be pretty good. So
he's already there, see? All right, for George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.